In this module, we'll discuss structure, policy, processes, and outputs, and how legislation works. So how does Congress conduct business? In other words, how does a bill become a law? Bills go through a complicated but set of defined steps. First, members of the House formally introduce their bills by dropping them in the hopper. That's a bill located by the Speaker's seat, but in the Senate, there's no such thing. So senators hand their bills to a clerk or introduce it themselves on the Senate floor. At any step of the bill process, the bill can die. Bills are referred to the committee, which often refers them to subcommittees to study the bill and to hold hearings and to make recommendations. From that point, the bill goes back to the full committee because it's voted out of the subcommittee. So it goes back to the committee in which it was originally sent. The committee may accept the subcommittee's recommendations or start again and hold its own hearings and prepare its own amendments. The bill then reaches the markup stage, where a final version of the bill is written. The bill can die in committee, or it can be reported to the floor, meaning sent to the entire Senate or House for consideration. At that point, in the House, the bill would go to the Rules Committee, which decides the length of debate and to what extent amendments to the bill may be proposed from the floor. There are two types of rules. A closed rule severely limits amendments, while an open rule permits amendments to be proposed on the floor. Since the Senate does not have a Rules Committee and allows for unlimited debate, one key way to control the debate in the Senate is the use of the filibuster by individual senators. Filibuster is from a French word that means pirate, and this name is really appropriate, since a senator who launches a filibuster virtually hijacks the floor of the chamber by speaking for long periods of time and can talk about anything he or she chooses, including simply reading from the phone book, thus preventing the Senate from closing debate and acting on a bill. This mechanism, the filibuster, is the one that's most likely to weaken the party leadership in the Senate. The most famous filibuster in history is when Republican Senator Strom Thurmond held up the vote for 24 hours on the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Senator Strom Thurmond had run for president in 1948 on the Dixiecrat ticket, a third-party ticket, and he was against the segregation, he was for the segregation of the races. Does the senator's filibustering get to speak forever, you may be asking? The way to end a filibuster is to vote for cloture. A cloture rule, Senate Rule number 22, provides for a time limit to be placed on debate if 3/5, which is 60 senators, vote for it. Senators are then limited to an hour each and a time cap of a total of 30 hours. Only amendments that have been filled before the cloture vote may be considered once cloture is invoked. So the bill is put on the calendar after being reported out of the House Rules Committee. Now the bill has made it to the floor of the Senate. What happens next? Differences between the House and Senate versions of the bill, if not worked out informally, are resolved in conference committee. So it moves from the floor vote to conference committee. Conference committee consists of delegations from original House and Senate committees. After a bill is reported out of conference committee, it must be approved by both the House and the Senate. Often members at this point of Congress, they look for a quid pro quo, and they engage in what is sometimes called log rolling or vote trading. One will agree to vote for a piece of legislation important to the other and can call in a return favor at a future date. This idea of you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours, or mutual accommodations among members, suggests that to some extent congressional behavior is based on the principle of reciprocity. The president must then sign the bill in order for it to become a law. The other options the president has, specifically veto power, is discussed in Module 5.3. Be sure to watch this video as often as you need to in order to understand the material. You should also do your readings and go over the questions.